So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where the top 10 strongest economies in the world go to war with the rest of the world. Now the top 10 strongest economies are very different from the top 10 strongest countries. For example, Russia is ranked at number 2 in terms of military, but they're not even in the top 10 in terms of economy. And there's multiple factors for that, such as their war with Ukraine and sanctions. But the list for the top 10 strongest economies might actually surprise you. So we will be taking a look at that here in a second, but before that, do make sure to show some support for this video and the channel by leaving a like on this video and subscribing to the channel if you are new. We're aiming for 200,000 subscribers by the end of this year. I think we just hit 139,000 subscribers, so big thank you for that. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump straight into this video. Also, real quick, sorry, I know I just said we're gonna get to it, but I'm back to editing videos now. Videos should probably be a little bit shorter now, a little bit more crisper, and I'll probably talk more about that in like a post or something. Actually, I talked about it a little bit on Twitter, so go follow me there. But yeah, video time, let's do that. So at number 1, in terms of the largest and strongest economies in the world, of course, we have the good old United States of America. This is a given since the United States is number 1 in many categories. Not all those categories are good, but this is one of the good ones. And this source is just online. There's multiple sources that have this exact list. We're going by the strongest economies. The US is at like 27 trillion as of now. China's at number 2. They have around 18 trillion, a couple trillion behind, but that's still very good. Number 3 might surprise some of you, but it doesn't surprise me because I know what's up. It's Germany at number 3. At number 4, there is Japan. Some people might be surprised about this because, you know, World War II happened around 80 years ago. Germany and Japan were on the axis. They got curb stomped, and somehow they're both one of the top 5 strongest economies in the world. Yeah, that's what reformation does to you. Next up, we have India at number 5. No surprise here. They are on the rise. I'm pretty sure they'll be number 3 soon enough. Next up, we have the UK, which I found pretty surprising. I didn't think they would be this high up, but I did think they would be in the top 10. Then we have France, similar to the UK. Didn't think they would be here. Same with Italy. I did not think they would be in the top 10. No offense to the Italians. And number 9, we have Brazil. Also did not see them in the top 10, but here we are. And keep in mind, this is largest economies in the world. Doesn't necessarily mean like the best economies. And that's not like an insult toward Brazil. I thought I would just clarify that real quick. And at number 10, we have Canada. Also, I should just say Canada and Brazil's economies are like pretty much the same. I think it's off by like 10 billion. So they're pretty interchangeable. I mean, Italy is also right up there as well. All right, now we can get to the fighting because we have our 10 countries here. Now, when I look at this map, I see a lot of good things for the red team, and the reason for that is because they're very concentrated. What I mean by that is that you see a lot of red over here in one place in North America. Obviously, this is a huge advantage for the US, who doesn't have to worry about Canada. And you come down to South America, the largest country there is on the side of the red team. Over to Europe, we have 4 Western nations who all pretty much border each other. And finally, over to Asia, where we have 3 countries all in one region here. And of course, India and China border each other, but that's not too beneficial because of the Himalayas. But planes exist, so who cares, right? And of course, Japan. Japan is Japan, they're fine. Now there's some factors that we have to take into this. Once again, just because they have a large economy doesn't mean they have a good military. Our best example of that is technically Canada, because they don't have the largest of militaries. It's capable, but it's not large. But yeah, let's go ahead and see how exactly this plays out. So firstly, starting over and going left to right, we have the USA invading Mexico. We've seen this a lot, and we all know how this goes. It goes the same way every single video. The US creeps across the border and then takes over all of Baja California. And the reason I do the same thing every video for the invasion of Mexico is because I think this is like the most realistic way for it to happen. I can't think of many other ways that this would happen other than them, like, you know, funding an uprising within, but that seems unpractical when you can just, you know, move your troops across the border. I'm not a war analyst, I'm not a war expert, despite me doing a bunch of videos on war. I think the red team will have a pretty good time over here in terms of like naval assets. The US Navy is ginormous, and Brazil has a navy as well. Canada, I'm not so sure what they would do. Bahama, goodbye. I've been to the Bahamas, there's nothing there, so yeah, they're just kind of, honestly, let's just sink them into the ocean. We don't need the Bahamas. They're just a tourist attraction. They're not even real. When I said that I went there, I was actually just lying. I have actually never been there because it's not real. All right, now to South America. This is where things get a little bit interesting because Brazil is at a big disadvantage. Despite being the largest country here, they have obviously like 10 fronts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I was right. I'm smart. Now, there is a slight advantage for them, and that is the Amazon rainforest, which kind of borders these countries here. So really what they can, well, actually it goes all the way up to, I think it goes up to here as well. So really what they can do is they can just focus in on the southern front, because the northern front, there's not going to be too much happening there because of the rainforest. So Uruguay is the first victim of Brazil's expansion, and they eventually make their way into Argentina, but are eventually stopped. So then they go ahead and shift their focus over to Paraguay, and that goes pretty well because there's no one here. They all died. French Guianas ran over, and eventually Suriname as well, until the Brazilians are forced to stop because of the overwhelming amount of South Americans who are fighting back against them. So far for the red team, things are going great. The United States and Brazil, I guess Canada is also assisting. They have both done great things, but we can also go ahead and check in on some of the other countries in the world, such as our friends over in Europe with the Big Four. I say that they're the Big Four because they are the 4 strongest countries in Europe, if you're not counting Turkey and Russia. So Ireland will go ahead and they will completely take over all of Northern Ireland, and then they will make a landing over here in Wales, and with the help of the Welsh and the Scots, they go ahead and fund an uprising in Britain. Even Cornwall breaks away, and from here, Rule Britannia no longer exists because it is changed over to the national anthem of Ireland. An unfortunate day for the Britons, but a very fortunate day for the rest of the world, as both sides agree to a peace deal in which war is over because Britain is gone. Just kidding, you wish. Ireland unfortunately gets ran over, as much as I would like for them to not be ran over. And then we have the same thing happening with the Benelux. They were just completely flattened. There's no chance. But now it gets a little bit more intricate because there's multiple fronts that the red team has to worry about. Anyway, Denmark, goodbye. I don't like Denmark because I haven't been there. Therefore, I don't like it. I guess in that case, I don't like any countries in the world. But Denmark, screw Denmark specifically. Copenhagen, what kind of capital name is that? Who's Copenhagen? All right, Spain, Catalonia, gone. So yeah, I'm not sure how likely that is considering that it's an invasion against the whole world. So, maybe Catalonia and Spain finally, work together, don't hate each other. It's unlikely, but you never know. In this case, Catalonia does break away and help the red team, which allows for them to influx a large amount of troops right into the center of Spain. And this is where the war gets a little bloody, as we have the most casualties so far happening over here in Iberia, with Portuguese and Spanish casualties being very high. The reason for that is French carpet bombing. That's what you call air superiority, my friends. Speaking of carpet bombing, Russia is attacking Ukraine. Don't know why. They're on the same side, but they're still, attacking each other. And I also heard that the US just dropped the bomb on Iraq, which is weird because the US is fighting against Mexico right now. Weird times that we live in. All right, over to East Asia, where not too much is happening. Just kidding, a lot is happening because China is invading Southeast Asia with the help of India, who is actually kind of occupied with Bangladesh, but they are still sending troops over into Myanmar. China is very familiar with this region because not only have they spread their influence over here, they also have historically spread themselves over here. So Vietnam is, Vietnam is Vietnam, so obviously they're not going to get completely folded over like a lawn chair, but they're getting folded pretty hard. Also, Thailand is being invaded too. Thailand, I'm not sure what even happens in Thailand. I know one thing that happens in Thailand, but I can't say what it is. North and South Korea on the same team doesn't make any sense, so let's go ahead and fix that and wipe out North Korea. Let's be honest, North Korea isn't really anything without China. I guess you can make a case for Russia being there, but Russia is more focused on what's going on over here, I'd assume. So yeah, speaking of issues, this is an issue because Pakistan relies on China heavily, or at least with their relations with India. So this is weird. Pakistan is not used to being alone. But we'll touch up on that in a second because some things just happened over in the Americas, such as the US making a landing in the Yucatan Peninsula. We all saw this coming because, like I said, this happens every single time the US invades Mexico. I'm the most unoriginal mapper in existence. I say that because no one else does this. Some of you guys do now that I've made it semi-popular. Cuba. We all know what happens here. Actually, I'm going to say the same thing for all 3 of these countries because they are all irrelevant. I've been to Hispaniola. Nothing goes on there. Stuff goes on there, but it's not legal. I'm looking at you, Haiti. So yeah, those islands are gone, and the US eventually will work together with Britain to knock out all of these islands as well, because they're going to use them as naval bases for a potential attack on northern South America. Now at this point you might be thinking to yourself, why does this guy overpower the aggressor in every single video? And to be honest, I don't know. It's just how it goes, and it's what feeds my family. Except I don't have a family. Well, I have a family, but not in the sense that I'm feeding it. What am I even saying anymore? All right, next up, Trinidad and Tobago, goodbye. And now back to Europe, where we have a little bit of an update with Poland. You thought I was going to have Germany invading Poland, didn't you? Incorrect. Actually, Poland has made advancements into Germany for the first time ever. Actually, it's probably not the first time ever because, the HRE and stuff in Poland, Lithuania. But with the help of Eastern Europe and Russia, the front over here in Europe isn't looking too great for the red team. Just because the sheer amount of people. Russia is the second strongest country in the world at this point. They could be focused in on China and India because those are larger threats than these four, but it would make sense for them just to want to wipe out these four before they focus in on China and before China can fully mobilize for their invasion of Central Asia. Only issue is these four are tough. Now, they're not going to be able to survive an invasion by all of Europe, but once again, they are still tough. They're the four strongest countries in Europe, discounting Russia and Turkey. So they have potential, but we all know how that goes. Potential doesn't mean product. That is, unless you put the effort in. Great words here by me, AdizzPro. So Germany is losing Bavaria, no surprise there, but now the Poles are in Berlin, and I guess pigs are flying in Germany, because this is unforeseen, and the German people are sick to their stomachs. Poland has revenge on their mind, and, you know, they're working together with the Russians, which... it's a little bit weird, but this is what Germany gets for what they did in World War II. Sweden will go ahead and liberate all of Denmark. That does not make any sense. Sweden and Denmark don't like each other. How is that possible? I don't know. Same way that Israel and Iran are on the same team. All right, Germany is getting absolutely demolished, and the French are a little bit worried about this. So what will the French do? Well, surrender, of course. You think the French were actually going to fight? Anyway, with the surrender of France, Italy, and Britain are like, what the actual... and they both decide to pull their troops out of any fronts in Europe, so Italy evacuates their troops from Spain back to Italy, and Britain pulls their troops who are occupying all of the Benelux. Now, I do want to take this time, and on the subject of, to say that occupations are going to be a little bit different. They're not going to be realistic. Because for these red team countries to have any kind of chance, they're going to need like infinite garrisons to, you know, garrison the occupied territories. And that's impossible. There's not infinite people in the world. So yeah, we're going to have to cheat there and kind of have the garrisons be infinite. Anyway, with the, you know, French people surrendering, this no longer exists, and Catalonia will get spanked. Italy, your time has come. Unfortunately for Italy, they don't stand a chance against Europe. The UK at least has the ocean to kind of serve as a border for now. Italy, I mean, they're kind of just like in the middle of the Mediterranean. They're surrounded by a bunch of different countries, plus Northern Africa. Italy's screwed. So 3 red countries at this point have been eliminated. There are now 7 left. The UK is scared. Will they be able to hold out like they did in World War II? Probably not. We'll get to that in a second though. Back over to East Asia now. India has now taken over Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh is Bangla no more. At this point, Myanmar will now receive its special treatment from China and India, and Southeast Asia as a whole surrenders over to China and India, and shortly after, the Indians and the Chinese make their way into Malaysia. Okay, so Southeast Asia is gone. Now there's really only 2 major things that the Indians and Chinese need to do, and that is to take out South Korea and Taiwan. Those are the 2 stronger countries that remain within East Asia, and then they can focus on Oceania, which has a lot of strong countries like Indonesia, Australia, and the Philippines. And then after that, it's world conquest time, because it's all blue from here. South Korea. How do we go about this? So they're going to lose their southern island there. It's Jeju? Is it Jeju? I don't know. I don't speak Korean. Pretty sure it's Jeju. Doesn't matter though, because South Korea is now being invaded from 2 sides. The Chinese and the Japanese are working together to occupy Korea. That's a weird sentence. Korea doesn't survive, unfortunately. Although they are one of the stronger countries in the world, so them holding out long is more likely. But for the sake of the pace of the video, they are done. They're dead. All gone. Bye-bye. Now, Taiwan is a little bit similar to South Korea in the sense that it is kind of like a fortress. Pacing, though. Sorry. And same thing with these 2. They're kind of hard to invade, but pacing, sorry, goodbye, bye-bye. All right, so now it gets a little bit more interesting. That is, if you're American. Mexico, Mexicant, because Mexico has to Mexico. Okay, goodbye. You are gone. No longer relevant to my plot. And same thing can be said for the Central Americans. Now, of course, the US military at this point is probably exhausted, so they're going to take a quick break over in Panama. Okay, after their short little break in Panama, they're going to go ahead and occupy the rest of the country and make their way to the border of Colombia. This is where it gets interesting, because at this point, the US has control over all of North America. I'm sure Canada is also helping out with that as well. Actually, no, they've been trying to invade Greenland. Good job, Canada. Actually, I just got the word that they've actually managed to take all of Greenland, which I'm not too sure what like the benefit is of taking all of Greenland other than positioning and maybe oil. But, you know, everyone give Canada a round of applause. They did something. You know, I was kind of expecting them to assist the US in their invasions, but they took charge. They took over Greenland. And they might also be trying to take over Iceland. Okay, South America is going interesting because the Peruvians have invaded the Amazon. I'm not sure what they're doing, but they're doing good. And the Venezuelans and the Colombians are helping as well. And also, it turns out they're just scorching it. So the Amazon is on fire. Lovely. I'm sure that's great for the environment in these terrible times of war. Down south here, Brazil has been at a stalemate since the start of the war, so no progress has been made. However, they did make an attempt to go into Bolivia, and it pretty much stalled out as well. So this front line has not moved in a couple of months, or at this point, maybe even years. Now back over to Europe, where the UK is no more. Yeah, that's right, spoiler alert. The Russians in Europe landed over and took over London. No, it isn't just the Europeans that are there, it's also the Middle Easterners and the Africans. Why are they there? Well, because, you know, revenge, duh. Remember when the UK colonized 25% of the world? Well, yeah, that's right. They're back, and they're taking all their artifacts back from London. Looks like the UK cannot stop catching strays in this video because now they're actually officially gone. And yeah, a lot of the world is happy by this development. Ireland is freed because, you know, free Ireland. And yeah, so Western Hemisphere, lots of things have been changing here. Well, I guess I should say Western Europe because the Western Hemisphere starts like right there. Well, with the UK gone, the focus of the Europeans and Russians and Africans even is probably going to split, half going to the Americas and half going over to East Asia. So now, let's focus in on, I guess, East Asia. China will begin an invasion of Mongolia, which will go pretty well until the Russians arrive. And this is pretty much the turning point of the war for East Asia because now Europe is no longer distracted by these four countries. They can now focus in, like I said, like a couple of seconds ago, on this part of the world and this part of the world. And with the influx of troops, the red team is now at a disadvantage. So slowly but surely, China and India are put on the defensive as all of their progress, which they just made, is pretty much erased. And now they're getting the world gangbang treatment because it's not going to go well. Xinjiang, which is a province in China that is not good things are happening there. It pretty much breaks away with the support of the Middle Eastern countries. And from here, it's all downhill. Even Kashmir is lost, which India is fuming over. I already know. It's okay. You're not going to win this video. You win pretty much every other video. And yeah, the blue team is just taking a good old bite out of China and India at this point. Now, China and India, they hold a lot of population. In fact, their combined population is close to 3 billion, which is an insane amount of people. That's actually 3/8 of the world, if you didn't know. So they're capable of defending themselves to an extent, but with that being said, their defense will greatly be weakened because of the fact that they have lost so much territory. And Indonesia and Australia will take advantage of this, invading up into Southeast Asia, taking over Thailand and even areas of Cambodia and Vietnam. Over in the Americas, the United States is witnessing all of its allies kind of fail. Luckily, the US and Canada and Brazil are all separated by two very large oceans, so it is kind of am I making up words? Advantageous? No, I'm making up words. They do have that advantage that, you know, India and China don't have. Unfortunately, though, the US Navy is probably not capable of taking on the world Navy combined. Now, I'm actually going to think about that for a second because if they unretired all of their boats, which are in museums, maybe they would have a chance. But that costs a lot of money, that's a lot of maintenance, so that's not very plausible, but it's cheaper than building new boats, and it's also probably less time consuming. So the US Navy really, I mean, it has a small chance. I'm not saying that that's going to happen in this video because it's not. And also considering the US Air Force, which is also humongous. They have the largest Air Force, and then their Naval Air Force is also humongous as well. So I mean, the US, they have hands if they want to throw with them. I'm just not sure if it's enough to, you know, take on the whole world. Actually, I did a video on this, which was the US versus the world, and I think they lost. Either they lost or they tied. Obviously they didn't win because that's impossible. I'm hoping that I had them losing because there's no way the US takes on the world, but you never know with me, especially old me. I was weird and crazy. Okay, so yeah, America is witnessing their allies failing, and there comes a point in every country's life where they abandon their allies. Just ask the British or the Italians. And the US is like, you know what, Brazil, good luck. And the US halts any plans to invade South America for the simple reason that they need to go on the defense because the whole world is about to be on their let's check up on China. Oh, they just lost Beijing. That's pretty not good. And yeah, so it turns out fighting a multi-front war is not easy. In India, everything is also not going well as they lose Delhi. And now China and India are asking Japan and the three Americans to, you know, consider peace or at least try to form some kind of peace deal with the blue team. Not wanting to lose everything that they have, pretty much every country here is in agreement with that, except for America, because it's America, but majority rules, so eventually the red team will agree to peace with the blue team, and we can take a look at a peace treaty, which, you know, I wasn't really thinking about doing a peace treaty, because how do you really do that, right? If we look at claims, obviously the red team has taken over a lot more countries than the blue team has, but when we're looking at power rankings, the blue team has taken over 4 very strong countries compared to the red team's a few weak countries. No offense to America, but yeah, let's look at this peace deal here. All right, taking a look at this peace treaty here, we can see that the world map looks a lot more different, especially over here in the Americas, where we will be starting. So we have a union here between Canada, the USA, and Mexico. Mexico was kind of forced into it, but they really didn't have an option because they didn't exist. This also includes Belize, Guatemala, and El Salvador. Then we have the remaining Central American countries uniting together for economical purposes. The Caribbean, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys kind of decide what happens there within yourselves. Maybe the Cubans are a part of this new union, maybe they're not. Maybe they're a territory, it's whatever you want it to be, really. And in terms of South America, you might not even notice a difference, but there is one difference, and that is that Uruguay no longer exists. I really didn't know how to do South America because I didn't want it just to stay the same, because, you know, there were a couple of wars that happened here and a couple of frontline changes, but the red team did have a lot of Brazil under their occupation. Granted, it wasn't a lot of, like, you know, important territory, whereas Brazil had a whole country under their control, so I thought it was more fair just to give Brazil a country. And then over to Europe, where there really aren't that many changes. You might notice something if you're attentive to detail, but if you're American, you probably don't notice anything. First off, the UK is dismantled. Ireland got Northern Ireland, Scotland got independence, Wales got independence, and England is pretty much just the UK at this point. France, nothing really happened to them. They lost a little bit of land to Spain. And honestly, I'm not even sure if I probably should have given more land over to the Europeans in this scenario. Like Poland got a little bit of Germany, but not much. The Benelux united together for economical purposes. Now moving over here to Asia, where these two countries really got the brunt of it. China lost Xinjiang and they lost Tibet. In India, please look away, but Pakistan got a hold of Kashmir. This is the first time in any of my videos that Pakistan has ever successfully beaten India and gotten land from it. At least, you know, like this land from it. Bangladesh got a little bit of land, and other than that, not too much changed over here. So yeah, I probably should have done more with the peace treaty, but I figured since they sat down at a peace deal, they weren't necessarily beaten all the way. They did lose 4 of their main countries though, so the red team was at a disadvantage there in terms of peace talks, which is why these countries did lose a little bit of land. And then I don't know, I guess these guys just caught astray because they lost a lot of land. But yeah, overall, not too much happening in terms of land exchange other than this. This is the exception. So yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to show some support. Can I center this, please? Good enough. Make sure to show some support by leaving a like on this video and subscribing if you're new. Once again, we're trying to get to 200,000 subscribers by the end of this year. It's an ambitious goal, but it is a goal that I am trying to get us. We're trying to get there anyway. You cannot be a YouTuber without being ambitious. I figured that out recently, and you gotta be very ambitious because I just said so. So yeah, support me, please. But all jokes aside, it is greatly appreciated since we are trying to hit that goal. And yeah, if you want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments, leave your suggestions. I'm trying to move back into, I don't know what I'm trying to do right now with YouTube, really. It's kind of confusing. We're in a confusing times where it's like, I'm pretty much out of mapping ideas, but there's still like some stuff that I can do. And I can, of course, can like, you know, what's it called? Revamp old content into new content. So there's a lot of potential with stuff that I can do. But once again, your suggestions are very greatly appreciated. Also, let me know if you like the editing in this video better than it usually is. That is going to help me out with a final executive decision. I haven't, like, you know, told Jaden that I'm going to be editing from now on, but if you guys like this editing better, then I'll do it. More time consuming for me, but if it's worth it for you, then it's worth it for me, I guess. That sounds kind of not nice. I mean that in a nice way. Anyway, goodbye. I'm sorry that I talk so much. And of course, thank you to all the super fans. This includes Kylie Speaks Plays, German Edits, A Random Guy, Patrick Clauser, Life Lamau, JB Countryball 12, Friaza, Hammertoad 45, CTG Canada Flag, Poland Country Ball, Nevada Garbage Trucks, Yakko, DW Cool Dude, and Serminator. Thank you guys.